I do it every time as if I'm gonna edit this.
Once you do that clap,
Yes.
I mean, it's just letting us know that we're getting ready. So you come to expect it now.
Yeah, yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
Not a problem. Not an issue.
All right. So for those that have been following this saga, this mess of a saga, and for those that are gonna be newcomers, welcome
Ha.
to Full
Wow.
Circle. I'm your guy, your host, Roxas Wright, CJ Wright, DJ CJ Wright. No one calls me that, but that's okay. Christopher James Wright. And in front of me, I have.
Your man's Jacques, or you can call me Fuzzy Bear Slips, or Jake, Neo Panther, whatever you want to call me. That's me. And we also have my man's.
John Denzel Washington. Denzel Washington. Denzel Washington. Don't call me Daddy Quick. That's not my name.
Probably should though.
Yeah, we probably should.
Yeah. You need to come up with a better name.
And accompanying Daddy Quick, I mean John Denzel, I mean Denzel Washington, I mean Denzel
Well,
Washington.
Denzel Quick.
We have Denzel
Denzel
Quick is
Quick.
bad. We have.
Real quick is not a good name. Hey, I'm Aaliyah. So- But y'all can call me Lily Bands though.
Lily Bands, alright. Alright, so we're gonna pick our story up from where we left off on the wellness circle. We're gonna make this a real short one because I know we all got something we gotta talk about. We got something we gotta get out of our system.
Of course.
So, I was gonna tell you guys about the wellness circle. I think I have it in the Discord. Let me post it up right now. Jacques, if you could read it off while I find it right here.
Can you make it a little bigger? If you can, of course.
Listen, this is all I got.
You're gonna need to get that PP up.
little
Little Pokemon, little Pokemon reference for any of you guys.
Pokemon.
Can't flag us for anything, 'cause that's Pokemon.
I can actually make it bigger up here. Don't quote me on any of this. There we go. I'm posting in the chat so we all can see it again. Boom, boom. I don't know why I scrolled up when I just click on it.
Oh, yes.
Alrighty. So, the wellness circle. It's comprised of 8 aspects. Emotional, where you manage stress so you stay on top of tasks and you manage your feelings. Financial, where you create a budget, future planning. Intellectual, where you expand your knowledge, master new skills and curiosity. Spiritual, where you find a deeper meaning in life and slash practicing faith. Social, healthy relationships, strong social networks. Environmental, where you declutter, organize, and recycle, as well as save energy. And last but not least, physical, eating well, exercise, and sleeping well.
Mm-hmm. And what we studied in the course was how these are the basic elements to help you find, or rather, to make life easier before, during, and after you find your purpose. So what makes you you?
Right.
When you're filling all these aspects, you kind of create kind of a center hold, or rather, find a balance or what you should focus on or what you feel like you're lacking on. You have a direct solution for the issue. If you feel like something's lacking in your life and you look at this wheel and you feel like, okay, I'm good at these aspects, but financial I'm lacking. It's hard for us to do that, but at least you know what you got to work on. You have to find something that you're passionate about, get that job, or try to find some job that helps you stabilize yourself until you can get something further
Right.
or achieve something greater. One thing that I feel about, well, basically anything in life, like I say all the time, life is about growth and expansion. So even if you feel like you're okay and you're not complacent or compliant, you're basically happy with where you're at right now, you still have room to grow. Everyone has room to grow.
Right.
You don't stop growing until you're dead. Unless you want to talk about yourselves and you start dying at 25. But we're not talking about that right now. We're talking about growth.
Talking about growth.
I have a question for y'all.
Yeah.
So, going based off of what Chris said about continuous perpetual growth, do you think that there may be upper limits to how much a human can achieve in terms of these aspects of wellness? Do you think that you could max out on physical and environmental and social, but you can't? That's your limit, so you can't really max out on emotional or financial.
Well,
Like,
everybody has a capacity to achieve a certain amount of things, right? So let's use like person X for example. Person X can only achieve this much in the setting that he's in. So while he's in setting, let's say setting Y, he can only do so much. But if he were to move on to another setting, maybe he can achieve more because he has more, options and resources available to him.
Mm-hmm.
So it really depends on your setting, who you are, and the people around you with how much you can actually achieve. Like physical, everybody has like a physiological, biological limit on their body as far as they can push it.
Right.
Unless you start doing other things like, gene enhancing yourself or, like when I was watching Joe Rogan's podcast, they have stuff like stem cells that they put inside themselves to allow them to do more than they originally can do. So they got stuff like that. There's a point where you reach a limit and you kind of manufacture yourself to surpass that limit. There's some certain people, I guess at the end of the day, the crux of what I'm saying is not everybody can achieve the same thing. Everybody's ceiling is a bit different.
I feel like when it comes to our ceiling, there's I feel like there's a limit to what we have and what we're given when we start this life. But once we reach a certain point of knowledge and we keep expanding our knowledge and what we understand, we could continue to grow. So say I went to the gym and we started the same program.
Right.
Once I learn and understand what works for my body, I can continue expanding on the physical aspect.
Right.
When, say, if we're both in the same field or the same industry, once I figure out what I'm better at or what I'm better at and what can give me the most money, on top of that, then I can expand my financial.
Right.
When it comes to environmental, because it's about declutter, organizing, recycling, saving energy. Once I figure out how to actually do that, then I could actually fix that situation for myself and for whatever's around me.
Right.
For all these different things, like it's all about how much you're aware of.
Right.
And also how much you're willing to learn. As long as you have the willingness to expand, I feel like you can expand.
Right. I understand that. There's this one, the ocean cleanup guy. I don't know if you guys have heard of him. His name is Boyan Slat.
Yeah.
He is starting this ocean cleanup program where he's kind of like getting these things he calls interceptors, where he puts into the rivers and around the world to kind of like clean up the rivers.
Mm-hmm.
And then people ask him questions. How do you feel like you can tackle this problem, greenhouse gases, this, that? But his answer to that was, this is a problem I'm really passionate about. So I will focus on that. It's not so much that he, like you were saying, it's not so much that he doesn't want to grow, as he realizes this is what needs the most growth as of right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I do agree with what you're saying.
Yeah, and in lieu with that, like the amount of time a person has in their life, you can't really like focus on everything all at once. You really have to take your time and figure out what you want to work on in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
That aspect you can't really multitask in terms of like that. And with the expansion, like you can't really like there's no finish line when it comes to like these aspects of wellness. You got to keep working at it. You got to keep working at it, no matter how good you are at it. You can't go to the gym for like 5-6 years and then completely stop and think you're gonna have a great body or a great physical um physical aspect in your life for the rest of your life. You got to keep working at it. So
Right.
what do you guys think is, out of all the aspects, which do you guys think is like worth most of your time personally? Because everyone's different. I know for me, like I'm already like working on myself emotionally and socially, trying to build my emotional IQ, build new relationships, obviously working on expanding my knowledge and being able to create a future for myself where I'm financially free. Not that necessarily because I'm focusing on those aspects. I don't really grant myself a lot of time to work on my physical aspects. Um, I don't push myself to become more aware of my environmental, my environment, so I can't
Mm.
really work towards those environmental aspects of myself since I'm ignorant to those. Same thing with my spiritual. I tell myself all the time I need to read the Bible more. I need to make room to fit in my spiritual. Sometimes I do give some thought about it, but obviously I could always do more.
Mm. Uh,
And personally, that's me.
Personally, I feel like the main two that I focus on more than anything is my spiritual and intellectual. That's just my ball game because I'm full circle. I remember I think it was our second podcast we talked about what aspects we focus on the most in life or what aspects we got from our parents and what they influence us with. And I don't know if I said this last time, but especially now, I feel like mine is hope and knowledge. Those are the two, not hope and knowledge, but peace and knowledge. Now we'll get into my idea of peace later, but peace and knowledge is kind of my main focus. And the more I expand my knowledge and the more I expand my spirituality, I can obtain both of those things. And going on with the knowledge aspect, once I have expanded my intellectual side, I know when I could cut back from social settings or know when I could sometimes like gauge where I'm at work and know that I need to calm down so when I get home I'm not burnt out and I can't do anything else. I know I know what I need and what I don't need.
Right.
And I could balance that out and I could actually affect everything else on this wheel instead of just trying to go, I know I need to focus on that, but I don't have time. Because that's just me being like, that's my bad time management, which I've had issues with most of my life. So, I mean, like, look at the podcast. We haven't been able to do anything for a minute.
Meta.
But, like, I feel like, for me, intellectual and spiritual that's my main focus. And I think that's going to be my main focus for most of my life moving forward. Everything else will follow suit in my mind. But I need to first attack my spiritual and intellectual.
It's interesting because a lot of these things kind of overlap, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, you said intellectual and spiritual, and John said emotional and social, right? So, like, when you think about it, when you work on physical, like your whole physical body and all of that, making sure you eat well, you sleep well. If you don't sleep well, if you don't eat well, your emotional state is going to be off because, your hormones are going to be off because of all of that. And if you're not, you don't manage your stress and you're not on top of your task, how can you really expand your knowledge? Because, your whole emotional level is not really, trying to learn anything because you're just trying to focus on yourself and trying to find a way to, like, get through the next day. So you can't really, like, expand your knowledge if you're not up to the task to do so.
Mm-hmm.
And, again, intellectual leads to spiritual, yada, yada, yada. But personally, I would say easily physical and emotional just because, both of those realms both lead to a lot of other things. Like, if I don't feel like I sleep well, I don't think I can really function too well the next day. So that's why I try to, like, champion that idea of, like, trying to sleep well as much as I can. And then emotional, if I'm not emotionally on top of things, like, because I'm big on mental health and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So if my emotional levels aren't really good, I can't really tackle most of my other tasks because I'm too busy trying to figure out where else for me to go from here. So, yeah, I would definitely say physical and emotional at the end of the day are really two big ones that I feel that are important because everything else will just become secondary if I don't really, worry about those two ideas.
Right.
Mm. And you?
Ooh, she's gonna be back in a minute.
Got you.
Sorry, I kind of missed like majority of what was going on, so I was kind of just listening to you guys.
Petro.
I didn't catch the topic of discussion.
Okay, so
Yeah.
no, it's okay. We're pretty much talking about the your individual wellness, the whole wellness circle. I'm not sure if you have it up on Discord. It pretty much talks about our question pretty much is what two of the wheel that we have up most strongly impacts you? Like which two are the most important to your life? Do you have that up by any chance?
Um, where would it be?
We
Under
have
That's
it
a
up.
good
the
question.
self care.
Yeah, under the self care.
Oh, okay. I didn't see that. Okay, I see it. Um, honestly, I feel like I take my emotional and spiritual wellness
Mhm.
like as priority, mainly because I feel like you're really nothing without like spiritual balance and emotional balance.
Right.
Like you can be wealthy, you can be fit, you can be social or whatever, but like if you're emotionally distraught, then that basically kind of means nothing. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? And like if you're spiritually distraught, that also just means nothing. So I feel like the main things that you really need to take care of is your inner self before you take care of your outer self.
Right.
I mean, unless you're like obese or something, then like, chill with that. But other than that, I feel like you need to take care of your inner self before you take care of your outer self.
Right. Entirely.
Yeah, that's my thing. Cause I like do that now in terms of like school sometimes. Like I know if I'm feeling like very overwhelmed and I'm feeling very out of balance, I know that me as a person, even though I'm like in the middle of work, I'll like take a break from my work and try to calm myself down before I go back into work because I know that my work will not come out as best as it can be if I'm like, all over the place internally.
I definitely
Mm.
agree because I remember this one quote. I don't remember who I heard it from, but it's just like, how you feel, like the energy you put out is like the currency of the world. What you put out is what you're gonna get in, right? So if you feel internally like you feel like you're not the best, right? You're gonna externalize some of that internal emotion, that energy, and you won't be at 100% like you feel like you should be.
Yeah.
So I definitely can see where you're coming from.
Sorry, I had to like change my. I had to take out my headphones.
That's fine.
It's all goody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
We got into like what you prioritize in terms of your growth, but in any type of situation when you're discussing success, it doesn't even have to be like financial or um external success. It can mean physical success. It can mean emotional success. It could mean intellectual success. It can
Mhm.
mean any kind of success. In terms of like figuring out who's going to be successful, do you think that those traits or those characteristics of a successful person comes from when you were born, or how you create yourself afterwards, like how you build yourself into?
That entirely depends
Mhm.
because you have that whole nature versus nurture argument. But like,
Yeah.
let's look at Jay Z. Jay Z was somebody who was like, he's where an argument can be made where he was just the right person in the right place at the right time
Right.
to become where he was. Like that successful person mindset is very difficult because it's like, what's your definition of success? Like his definition of success was being where he is now and getting who he got, making as much money, acquiring as much wealth. That was his definition of success. But like in certain places, that's just like, braggadocious. It's just like, okay, cool, he's there, but what about doing this for this for that?
Right.
So I don't really know in terms of that, but personality wise, I really couldn't tell you what makes somebody really successful.
Uh, for
Yeah, like
I don't
even
feel
with
like
the Jay-Z. Oh, go ahead.
I don't feel like personality is a category to it because you see all these people out there that are like so many different personalities. Like, look at Adam Driver and then look at Joaquin Phoenix or look
Right?
at Aubrey Plaza. Like they're all extremely different and some are like extremely shy. The guy that made Dragon Ball Z is probably one of the biggest anime creators out there. He is extremely shy. He's on camera like once in his entire life. Um, so I don't think personality is like fully it. If anything, I feel like when it comes to success. Of course, it's going to be an individual's concept of success, but a lot of it has to deal with number one, having the passion to do what you want to do, and number two, having the willpower to go through with it. Because a lot of the people that are successful, they've had the moments where they hit that bump, they hit that break, where they didn't have anything else to do, or they didn't know what to do next, and they had the willpower to continue the road they started instead of turning back like a lot of people do. A lot of people aren't successful because they hit that road bump, and the lack of willpower or that fear or that, I forget what I was reading. It was, one is a fear, one is a lack of willpower, and another one is just the complacency of moving forward and continuing that road. There's other aspects to it of why people stop. Some people think that, they're in a family situation where they have to deal with the family first before their like goals and everything like that, and they never get to finish their goals. So there's other situations for it. But whatever you have, your dream goal, your ideal goal, having the willpower to go there. It doesn't even mean you have to have that same goal for your whole entire life. A lot of goals change for a lot of people. But as long as you have that willpower to achieve your goals in your life, I feel like you've reached success.
Right. That it's weird because I feel like luck has a huge, like, we don't like to mention it because most people would like to say, like you said, they worked hard to get to where they are, but we see a lot of people who work hard, you know what I mean? And they just have that failure to launch. They never actually make it to where they want to be. But there's something, they just happen to know the right person. Like, whole Vin Diesel story, the right person met him and he was at the worst time of his life.
Right.
You have a lot, Robert Downey Jr., well, he doesn't count because his dad was famous. So
Exactly.
All right, forget about RDJ. But, like, other people like that.
Machete.
Yeah.
He was literally found from jail.
He was found from jail. You know what I mean? Like, there's an aspect of luck in there that most people don't like to talk about because it's something that's, like, not something that you can grab. It's something that grabs you. So, I definitely think luck is definitely in that formula.
The thing that sucks with that industry specifically, a lot of it has to do with connections.
Yeah.
If you don't have, not even just will, if you don't have the personality just to grab and create those connections, you're not going to have that.
Yeah, that's the issue.
Like that luck or anything that, even if you had luck on your mind, you won't be able to grab that.
Yeah.
At all.
Wouldn't gravitate towards you.
If we were talking like artists, that's extremely luck.
That's pure,
that's pure luck.
Yeah, that's pure luck.
Right.
Yeah, like it.
Connections too.
I would definitely say connections as well, but like, you have people.
Don't mind me.
You have people like I can't, off the top of my head, I can't really remember names, but you definitely have people who do like really good art, don't really get noticed. People who get like their art curated and whatnot, but they still don't get noticed.
Right.
So even them, it's just like, yeah, they know the right people because their art is obviously up there in museums, but they're still not getting the recognition that they feel that they probably deserve.
Back in the day when there was no such thing as connections, that's when it was just strictly, I have to be the best of the best or the luckiest of the luckiest.
Or the luckiest of the luckiest.
Only
you
two.
Really need to do something so
Unique.
groundbreaking that is just like, they have no choice but to look. It's crazy.
Like, actually, a lot of it these days are connections. Like, if you look at the sports field, a lot of people, they have, like, the specific coaches that know some scouter or something.
It's pure. What's that guy's name? The sports commentator that used to be a janitor. I keep forgetting his name.
Yeah. Forgot his name. Steven. Definitely not Colbert, but Steven something.
Oh, man. But, yeah, him. Like, that's a combination of luck and he knew people. And he got to where he was. Literally a janitor. He's making 6 figures commentating on basketball.
Right.
Steven Smith. Yeah.
There we go. But when it comes to, it's not a personality thing. It's connections, luck, and straight up willpower to not give up.
Yeah.
I don't really subscribe to the idea of luck per se. Like, all in all, it's really the same thing. But
yeah,
I would rather call it Fate. That's good. I would rather call it fate
Mm,
rather than luck because the right place at the right time. I feel like you're placed there for a reason. And
right.
in the broad scale, it actually is the same thing. It's just different ways of looking at it.
It's just a different
But
name. Yeah.
yeah, it's really just in the broad sense. But yeah, I feel like, some people are born in the right situations, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to use their resources the right way
Mhm.
Right.
um, to lead to where they want to get, to lead to their ultimate goals. There's a lot of
Oop.
people that were born into wealth, but end
Mhm.
up not doing anything with it. And then the other way around, there's a lot of people that started off poor with no resources and found meddled their way through. So like that born versus made conversation, you can be born however, whichever way possible. And then some people have that advantage, some people don't. But
Right.
it's the made part that actually defines whether or not you're successful in your goals.
Yeah. It's absolutely true.
When you say made, what do you mean by that? If you can elaborate a little bit.
Yeah, so like I feel like people are born a certain way, and that's always true. Like people never change. Like the idea of you being born with a certain personality 50, 60 years down the line, people are still going to recognize you by your personality. But at the same time, experiences um be on you and then form you into a different version of yourself, you know? Uh, that's really all I got on it, but yeah, experiences shape who you are in your life.
Oh,
So
you're talking about like what? Because it sounds like almost you're like kind of going into the consciousness realm of the consciousness school of thought, where it's just like what makes you you, and kind of like that version of you is the reason why you're successful. Those collective experiences, those amalgamation of ideas and whatnot, everything that you are is what makes you you,
yeah,
and that is also part of the formula of success. If I'm understanding this correctly.
yeah, I think you hit it on the nail.
Okay.
I don't, yeah, I think you hit it on the nail.
That concept of like luck and faith, like that's definitely a toughie. Because like I do understand what you mean. You're saying like instead of calling it luck, I personally would call it luck, but agree to disagree. But like faith, like you happen to be placed there because that was supposed to happen. It was your fate. It was your destiny. The universe kind of in a way willed that to be so, so to speak. But like I don't know. Like I feel like faith definitely is a strong word to use. That's the reason why I guess it's not sitting too well with me using that word
Mhm.
because I don't know how to describe it.
I I honestly feel like with fate, people like associate it with like you create your own fate, you create your own destiny, and it's really not. Like you're really not in control of anything in that aspect, no
Right? It's
matter
like
what
kind
you
of
do.
deterministic. Like I guess to some people too, it's kind of a scary thought because it's so out of touch with what you can control. Like a lot of people like to be in control of the things that they do, but I guess fate or luck or destiny has other plans for you, but you can't really grasp that. When I
Yeah,
say
like
you,
with
I don't mean you. I mean you as
no, yeah,
you.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like with fate, I feel like the fact that it's like not in your control that scares people, and then the fact that trying to say that you're already predestined to be in a certain place at a certain time, I think that's what's like bothering you
Mhm.
compared to like you making your own decisions. But yeah. Hmm. Yeah. I yeah, I really don't have an explanation for that, but I just feel like they're one and the same, but
Very well could be. I was just picking your brain a little bit.
it's fine.
Now that I'm back,
Welcome.
Yeah.
went for a little jog, but I
Jogging during the podcast.
I don't. I for one am not a huge fan of Fate, only because there was one little scripture, not scripture, but sermon my pops did a while back. I think it was my pops. Pretty sure my pops, where it was talking about how you aren't made for things. There is nothing in this world that you are made to be or to do. Things in this world were made for you. So, like, I could be out here, I could have been sitting here the whole entire time, my entire life, studying law, because that's something I am passionate about. But I'm here on music. I could have been out here doing a bunch of other things, but I'm here focusing mostly on music. But later down the line, I could do a ton of other things. I could be an activist. I could do anything. I don't have to subscribe just to music because that's my fate. Or I'm not going to just be a musician and stay in music just because I got lucky. I'm going to do what I can do,
Right.
not what I'm set to do. Like, yeah, there's a course that we're on, but there's different branches that we can take. Sure, there's going to be the fate or the paths that were already paved and made, but it doesn't mean we're subscribed to just one thing.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I get what you mean, but like
Yeah.
when we say fate and luck, we're not saying that that's like, capacity to do something versus what you were kind of born to do. Like, like when you say somebody's like a prodigy, somebody just kind of born to do that. Like, that's not what we're saying. We're saying like when we say fate is like the things that you happen to be around. Like, let's say, you have a passion for music and whatnot. Let's say you are around literally the best of the best producers, and the best of the best producers for some reason felt like they needed to reach out to you to let's say record a song or something like that. And it just so happened to like see your name, and they're just like, okay, I want to kind of go work with this guy.
Right.
Some guy down the street, not down the street, some guy in a different, like, let's say town who's not around those guys, who's around, let's say lower level people, lower level producers, lower level like artists and whatnot. He doesn't have that same opportunity because he just so happened to not be as lucky as you to be around the same people. That's kind of my theory. That's why when I say Jay-Z, he was the right person at the right place at the right time, because he just so happened to be. Like, he was definitely part of that, and he just was of that mindset to be the way he is today. That's really my thing. Like, I do understand what you're saying, but that's not the argument I was going for.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
If you get what I mean.
Got you. Then I agree. But yeah, like, life is entirely weird like that. Like, there's literally no say of what to do right or wrong. It's just a matter of do or don't.
Yeah, there's really no in between in that. You're either doing something or you're doing nothing.
Yeah.
Do you guys think there's a point that you need to be like to just stop and do nothing? Or do you always need to be doing something?
You can do whatever you want. Nah, jokes aside, but like, depends really. Like, we live in a society.
Live in a society.
We live in a society where people kind of like champions the idea that you always need to be doing something in order to be shown to be like somebody of value.
Mhm.
You can pump the brakes. It's okay. It's okay to be like, hey, I don't want to do anything. I kind of just want to live off the land. Like this one guy I was watching who literally lives off the land. He doesn't live in society. I'll definitely plug it to you guys. I think his name is like John Villanova or something like that. He literally lives off the land. He doesn't live over, in the city, in a metropolitan area, no suburbs. He lives off the land, and he's totally happy with that. and he's totally fine.
Yeah.
And people are gonna judge him, but he's happy. So do you necessarily need to always have to be doing something? No. That's if you want to keep doing something.
I mean, he's doing something. He's being happy. He's chasing his happiness.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So by his standard, he's
Right.
doing something.
He doesn't have to do something for everyone.
Right.
For everything.
Right.
He's just doing something for him.
Right.
Which is absolutely perfect. I feel like that's more ideal.
Which is amazing. Like I have to show you this guy's lives a crazy life. But it's just that preconceived notion of like, society kind of wants you to always be doing something. And not only that, we live in New York. You know what I mean? Like we wouldn't be having this conversation if we were like in Vermont.
Honestly.
Or Arkansas.
We don't gotta do nothing. We're out here shooting some, like it's
you know what I mean? Like the notion is different in different states, but that's just how I personally feel about it. And I know parents, whoever parent decides to listen to this, will be like, he's just lazy, millennial, doesn't want to do anything.
Doesn't know what we do for work.
Right? Like, come on. So, yeah, that's how I feel.
Cool.
Agree.
Yeah. I just wanted to bring it up, Personally, I feel like I have no idea what like if I accomplished all my goals today and couldn't come up with any more, what would I do?
That's ambition. Like,
yeah.
To you, I feel like if you completed, like, let's say you got to where you wanted to get to, right? I feel like you'll always find another
something
thing
else
to work on.
There's always something else.
There's always something else.
Yeah.
That nagging feeling in the back of your mind, like.
That's what people say. Money doesn't bring happiness, because once you get enough money, you're gonna want something else. You're gonna want more.
More.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We're ambitious creatures. We're made to want.
Yeah. It's like the whole Up in the Ante video I sent you from Bro Science. Definitely the truth. I can't go too crazy because this video will definitely just.
Yeah, it's not even on Facebook no more. My channel's like just shut down. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
But definitely look that up. Up in the Ante.
Up in the Ante.
Yeah, everything in life. There's always escalation. There's always something more than what we did before. Like, and even if we feel like it's a step back, someone's gonna look at it as like, oh my god, this guy's amazing. Like, he's doing so much more.
Exactly.
Like, Denzel, remember when we first did a performance in, what was it, Malloy, and it was My Girl?
Yeah.
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 You remember, like, our last performances there and how much we grew, even though it was still at freaking Malloy?
I didn't even think about that.
There's a lot of anger in that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, even though we were still in the same place and we feel like we didn't do much, we learned and grew so much in that time.
Yeah.
Up in the ante.
Like,
Up in the ante.
We were always, like, so well connected with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the boys, like, in general, we always just, like, bangs with each other. But I feel like we've grown so much more. Like, even as some people, like, left and came back and left again, that really didn't change anything. And, like, even our last days, you could feel that same energy that we had when David Reed was there, for example, when David Parker was there.
Right.
And it's crazy, like, how much we have, like, changed over the years too.
And
because there's a picture of both of them, believe it or not.
Say that again, your voice cut completely out.
There's the picture of both of us being bald.
Oh.
At a dance recital. Yeah.
Yeah, that's on my Snap. I mean, that's on my Instagram. I forgot to delete that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Aaliyah already got to it, so you don't need to delete it anymore. But
I need to delete it for myself.
Remember what we were saying? You gotta do things for yourself.
For yourself. Right? I ain't worried about you. You found yours. But yeah. And who would have thought, you know, that those two
All that
bald,
love is still
ugly,
there.
musky kids out here doing podcasts now, you over there in a whole different state,
Different state, different
doing what
weather.
you're doing for your future. Me out here, I mean, still in the same state, longer hair, doing what I need to do for my future. And it's not like, I mean, I'm still associated with Aya doing different things with them, but I'm not just dancing for them anymore. You know what I mean? The growth and expansion from that moment. From us being ugly little kids.
Yeah, we were definitely ugly. But yeah, that love is still there, believe it or not, for all of us.
Absolutely. I'm gonna let you
And
know
when
this
you
right
come
now.
back, you just always think of good memories. You never think of like the bad memories or the the not so good memories that we've shared over the time. When you come back, you just think of the good times, you know?
Right. I'm gonna let you know this right now for the rest of the podcast, bro. You're gonna hear screaming in the background. No one's dying. My cat's in heat. Should let people know that now before it
So
becomes
wondering.
too much. Yeah. She's gonna be screaming often. But yeah, the
No,
love,
she's
love
been
is
screaming
always
for a
there.
while.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. She's been trying to get her word in.
Yeah. I'm glad she's a part of the podcast. For those that don't know, the person that you hear screaming in the background is my cat Lily. Lily, Lilith, Lillian, Lily Theodosia Wright, all these different names she goes by. Hashtag Lil, you know.
Lils.
Lil.
Lil. Yeah.
Lils. But CJ, you did say that you had a few topics that you wanted to talk about.
Yeah. So, because I know my idea of peace is very different from like the standard idea of peace. So I wanted to hear what you guys think, like not the textbook definition, but the idea of peace coming from your mind and for you. Like, what is your idea of peace?
You saw that silence?
Yep.
That's a good
Yeah.
example of what peace is for me, at least. What you call it? It's like it's like total silence in a way that, and silence in every possible way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Silence where nobody is complaining about anything. Silence where everyone seems to be content with their state, mental, physical, everything. Silence where there's just tranquility.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Where pretty much that. Silence. Doesn't necessarily mean silence in, like I said, the bad way, like I'm telling you to shut up or something, be quiet. No.
Okay.
It's just, yeah, shut up. Nah, but jokes aside, like, it's just total mental, spiritual, emotional, financial, all that.
Going on the wellness. I see what you did, full
yes,
circle.
I know. It's just perfect that, where it's just
Silence.
silence. It's just
Nice. Radio
silence. Frequencies are all there.
What about you, Denzel?
I mean, peace. I don't know, man. I feel like peace oftentimes gets associated with happiness, and that's
Mhm.
not necessarily always the case. It could be the case in a lot of situations, but not always the situation.
Right.
But peace, yeah, silence, stillness, being content with what you are, with where you are. I don't know. I feel like that pretty much covers it.
That's solid. Aaliyah, what about you?
Mm, Give it a minute. But yeah, like when I think of peace, the first thing I thought of was
Quaaludes.
was heaven. being
Heaven.
the good Christian I am
Mm-hmm.
and going to heaven means peace. Peace in my time.
Mm.
Oh, Ultron, peace in my time. You just blow up the whole world, and then everything is still again. See, me and Ultron are on the same wavelength.
Exactly. So I guess I'm not as wrong as I thought I was. My idea of peace is just finding, because yeah, there is a happiness to it, but finding joy in your storm. Like, continuously being in that eye of the storm. No matter what's going on in your life, you're finding a light in that tunnel. You know what I mean?
Right.
And a huge part of the peace comes from, let me move this out of the way so we can see it, from your social aspects. You know, if you're surrounded by people who are never content, always like complaining about life and just a lot of issues nonstop coming their way and they're just spewing them out, never talking about joy or anything, you're never going to find your peace.
Right.
So a lot of it comes from, you know, just chasing that joy and being happy, not complacent, but finding what brings joy to your life and being there. And for those around you, finding those that are joyful with you and without you. Finding people that also want to have, you know, joy in their life. Not the same joy you have or the same concept of joy you have, but just that want to be in a joyful state.
Right.
And I feel like that's my idea of peace. And then moving to a greater scheme of that, when I think of world peace, I don't think of it as a global concept, but I think of it as, you know, my world. So again, talking about the social aspect, everything around me is my world. That's my peace. If everyone around me could, like I said before, taking away those weeds that just spew negativity, if I can just have those around me that want joy and will have the willingness for joy in their life and willingness to find peace in their life, then I'm at world peace.
Right.
I'm at my world peace. Things are always going to happen. That's nothing new. This is the world here. Like, this is Earth. Things will always happen. But we could be complacent. We could be complaining folk. We can, like, stand up in arms and do all these different things. And or we could just be at peace about, like, situations. I feel like, which actually ties into the other topic I wanted to bring up. You know, a lot of the issues with us, speaking about like the black community and not being able to find our peace, is we're always up in arms. There's never time for us to actually sit down. And it's hard to find peace when you're always standing on a ship you don't want to be on.
Right.
So when we see all of our people being like kidnapped, killed, and everything else like that, there's always three factions, and they're always at arms with each other. We have the complacent folk who sit there and say, well, this is where we're at. This is our life. You know, we just gotta prepare for the next person to die. Like, this is just a normal Tuesday for us. We have the people that are up in arms that want to revolt against this and want to fight back against it but don't know how. And the people that are at peace with the situation. The people that are at peace, they are usually on both sides of the situation, both sides of this coin, but they never put their 2 cents in because they're just at peace with what's happening.
Right.
And that it has to do with acceptance, but not complacency. That's a huge issue that I've been seeing. Like, a lot of what's going on right now is, like, we're saying acceptance for a lot of issues that we have in the world when it's really complacency. But I feel like people don't know that word. Going back to intellectual knowledge, people don't know what complacency is, so they utilize the word acceptance instead, and that's where huge distraction or huge disturbance comes from. But you know, how do you guys, spinning into like a deeper rooted one? If you were looking at it in a mindset of peace, right? And you see where our world is, you see what's going on with our people, you know, in our peaceful state, you know, meaning we could still find joy and happiness in our situation. We could still revolt and attack or strike or do this and a third. But if you had to resolve things in the way we describe peace already, in a peaceful manner, something that's good for you and those around you, what would you do? Like if you were an activist, or if you were a public speaker, or a musician, or just a financer that help people with their finances and learn more about what they can do. Like for your peace and our people as a whole, what would you do?
Well, for me, I remember.
Rephrase the question.
So, in short, to help your mind state and the mind state of our people, what would you do? Or what could you do? What do you feel like, not what do you feel like you're manageable of right now, but what would you do? Not like thinking about it in a grander scheme instead of limiting yourself to what you're capable of right now. What would you do? If you would do anything.
Well, my definition of a peace remember was silence, right? So I guess essentially for me it will be, well, okay, let's go back to my silence, right? So silence is like complete quietness and nobody really complaining of anything that's going on, right? So for me, I'll have to figure out what language of silence other people are used to. And if it matches to my language of silence. Well, I understand my language is not always going to be the same as theirs. I got to find a way to meet that middle ground. And you see, when people try, like, powers try to find a way to make peace in their country, they find a way to meet that middle ground with all parties, right?
Right.
So essentially, that'll be my answer as well, in the sense that I need to find what's troubling people. Like what is the reason for what they're doing? Like why are they yelling? Why is there so much noise? Where's this noise coming from? And you have to tackle that from from the ground up. And if you can find a way, like of course you're not gonna make everybody happy.
Right.
You just gotta understand that. But I can find a way to get a few people to understand that. Like a few people to understand the right way of going about it. Not right, so to speak, but the best way to make the less amount of noise hurt the less amount of people. Maybe I can achieve that silence for this amount of people. And that silence they have can reach that amount of people, and then kind of like go from there. I know it's not an exact answer, but it's like
it's your answer.
It's a practice, like so to speak, to hopefully get people to find a way to bridge their own gaps, so that way we can make that silence together.
Denny's?
I think for me, I'll just meditate. Meditation could get you to that center of peace in your mind state. That would be the first hit before it reaches your physical peace. And then for certain religions, it's spiritual enlightenment. So meditation, I think, would be very important in terms of preparing yourself in that manner.
And for the people?
And for the people, honestly, fuck the people. I'm just So, I had a roommate last year. Believe it or not, he was an Indian dude. I didn't really like him that much, to be really honest, but there's a story that he was beneficial in. So we were talking about religion and stuff like that. And he was basically telling me that Jesus meditated. And then he reached spiritual enlightenment. And then afterwards, Jesus went on and did just Jesus things. Healed people, be Jesus, and died. Because he's Jesus. So, I feel like that's a good marker to live by, of a good role model to aspire to be. If that was my. So, yeah, just after I reach my inner peace, help others reach theirs. Some way, somehow.
How about you, Aaliyah?
You still alive?
You still there?
She's still alive.
Make sure she's in the chat. Okay, yeah, she is.
Yeah.
She's
Oh,
talking.
she's talking?
Yeah, she's talking.
Is she?
Oh, she left.
She's talking.
The audio probably like messed up a bit. Yeah. In the interim, I feel like a lot of fear. I shared this post earlier because I thought it was really cute, but there was. Oh, you're back.
There we go.
You're back.
Welcome.
Welcome back. Welcome
Yeah,
to the
yeah.
Full Circle Podcast.
You got my man. No, I'm joking.
I just wanted to make sure y'all can hear me. There's something going on with my connection. Oh.
We can hear you now.
Yeah.
Oh,
we
you
can
can-
hear you now.
Okay.
Did you hear us that whole time?
Yeah. I was talking, and I guess nobody could hear me, so I was pretty much talking to myself.
Well, glad we can hear you now.
Can you share the stuff you're talking to yourself about? 'Cause I feel that's kind of selfish.
Yes.
I'm joking.
Well, I apologize for the ass connection in my home. Crap. I forgot like a whole bunch of stuff that we were talking about. What was the last thing that we were talking that you guys were
So we can
talking
start from the top. So the first thing was, what's your idea of peace?
Well, I feel like my idea of peace is just all of the individual wellness like in a perfect balance.
Yeah.
I feel like that is a very like good example of peace. I feel like everybody has their own peace, you know? Like it's not I can't really like point out a specific thing and just say like, oh yeah, that's peace. That's how peace should be. That's how peace is. Because everybody has their own form of peace.
Right.
They like silence. I don't like me personally. I don't like complete silence because that's actually a very stressful situation for me. If I'm not asleep and it's like completely silent and I'm like awake, I get very stressed out. And that's just me. Like when I'm doing work or something, like I always need to have some type of background noise. Like if I'm not on the phone with Denzel or John, whoever you call him, I'm usually like watching something while I'm like doing my work, and it's not just because I'm watching like I'm distracted, but it's just because I hear something in the background, like you know, and that just helps me like remain peaceful and remain calm when I'm doing my and yeah, but yeah, it's pretty much like peace for me. You gotta work for peace, honestly.
Right. It's not easy.
No, it's
Now,
not. Sometimes people like, oh wait, go ahead. Cause I was gonna
no,
say
that's perfectly
something.
fine. Yeah, I want you to say what you got to say.
Oh, I was gonna. Wait, what was I gonna say? I forgot completely. Okay, go ahead.
So, with your idea of peace, right? If you had to, well, I'm giving you the same option. You don't have to help our people. But say if you wanted to, right? What would you do to bring peace to all of our people, knowing what's going on in the world?
That's a very because I feel like there's no way to bring complete to all of our people because I could say like, oh, let's eradicate all people that's like racist against us or that are against us, and then that means that I have to like even kill our own people because we have our own people that are racist, like they're against each other. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like when one thing is done for peace, another thing comes up, you know, and gets like very rowdy. Like for example, let's take Obama. He was our first black president. We thought that we were gonna like, you know, rule the world. We thought we was gonna get somewhere. And while some things did work out, other things ended up getting worse.
Right.
And I feel like that can be like, a very um I feel like that's like a very like difficult topic to say, because I feel like even when you are trying to bring peace, there's never going to be like complete peace, because there's always that thing that ruins the peace, or that just doesn't want to be peaceful. Because again, like, not everybody has the same form of the same idea of peace.
Right.
So I feel like that's a very statement. But the best that I would do personally for our people is that I even want to do this now, and I spoke about this to like other people, is like, create more affordable housing. That's a big problem that we're facing with, just aspire like a lot of people of color, bring hope, because I feel like hope can also be another thing. When you're hopeful, it can also be some sort of peace, you know. Um, just like I feel like just like do what you can that you feel like you would enjoy for yourself, and whoever appreciates it will appreciate it. Whoever doesn't appreciate it won't. I'm not gonna say anything like demeaning or anything like that, because I feel like they don't mean no harm.
Right.
It's just not what gets them going, and it is what it is. But I feel like if we all collectively can work together, then that could bring some type of peace.
Yeah.
If we all manage to work together, that would be like the most peaceful thing that we've ever done, like as a culture, as people. And that's another thing, is just us like working together as a community, as a culture, because we're not Africans, we're not Americans, we're African Americans. Like, we're our own thing. We gotta get in there together, do our thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I got you.
Awesome sauce, great.
For me, bringing my world peace. I've been doing it so far. Whenever there's a challenge or any issues, they've been everyone is gonna have complaints and issues. Immediately when people come up to me and ask, like, bring up complaints, I just go like, so what are you gonna do about it? And if they don't have an answer, I'll be like, then there's no reason to complain. Like, it's fine. Like, if you're venting, I get that. Totally chill. You can vent. That's dope. But if you're just gonna complain, there's no reason to. It's gonna waste time. Don't waste your energy on that. I'm redirecting energy and keeping it at a positive light, and imploring those around me to just continue to focus on positivity, or just try to explore positivity, find it in themselves instead of trying to find it in like partners and stuff like that.
Some people just don't want to.
Yeah.
That's the sad part.
That's what I was saying before. Like, some people don't want to do that. Some people don't want to have that peace, that positivity. That's fine. They don't have to be in my world. Like, I said this is my world peace, so it's gonna be my world. They don't have to be a part of it. Like, if they're gonna hinder my peace and my joy and the direction my life is on, they don't have to be there. They could just be a blockade or just a visitor. That's all.
I agree.
And then
my silence.
If we're talking about silence, exactly. And if we're talking about a collective, going back to what I was saying, how I want to look at spiritual and intellectual. Hey Lily, hear you screaming again. But I want to focus more on, keeping our people informed, not about what's going on now, but like our history and the benefits we will have from having our people as tutors, our people as therapists, our people in therapy in the first place.
Please.
Yeah. There's so many different things, ironically enough, going to another discussion, that have been passed down from generation to generation that we've never recovered from. And it's like, up till now, which is an issue, up till now, we are finally figuring out what we need to fix in our generational curses. Like, back from, I think I sent it into this Discord before, where it was talking about how to raise a Negro baby in slavery, how you keep the parent away from the child and keep the mother reluctant to see the child.
Mhm.
And every single time they see the child, they have to bring negativity into their mind when they see that child. Or in order to keep the child away from being stolen or becoming property, if they're doing something that's amazing and someone steps by and sees them, you got to go like, nah, that kid's a good for nothing. That kid's a waste of space. Because in their eyes, that was protecting them. At that time, that was protection.
Right.
That hasn't changed. I think almost everybody here has had a moment where they messed up. Like, it wasn't, to us, it probably wasn't even a big mess up. But we just messed up, and immediately they were like, you're so stupid, or like, why are you doing that? Why are you so dumb? And they talk down and they destroy you without realizing that they're doing that before you get the chance to grow.
It's interesting because you did mention that before when you're talking about people of color.
Mhm.
There are, the three aspects like complacency, they're okay with that way, or they made peace.
Mhm.
It's a peace thing. Like, how many times do you hear like brothers and sisters going like, back in my time it was like this, that, and the third.
Yep.
They're okay with that. They made peace because that's it. That's what they think is normal. But for us, it's a generational curse, right?
Right.
And of course, we're going to do what we can do to break that, obviously. But it's very tough to try to make, the people of the ones who, perpetuated this curse to see that as something being wrong. Just like trying to get people to go to therapy because they don't see that as how they feel being something wrong. I was watching this one podcast where this one guy was saying where when he had PTSD, all he drank was tequila, took some Vicodin, and called it a day because, it would make him forget about what's going on. He's like, he shouldn't be feeling this way because his parents was telling him that it would just make him crazy if he goes that way. That was a generational curse,
Yeah.
as you mentioned. But, we can find ways to tear that down and try to normalize the fact that these things aren't okay. Like, you can actually go seek help for some of the problems that you feel that you have. Like, it doesn't make you weak. And just because your parents went through that doesn't mean they're not suffering themselves and doesn't mean they can't seek help themselves.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like there are a lot of times with those generational cycles that we go through. Yeah, and I feel like it becomes pressure to perform in that one book. I think it was the Toni Morrison book where the parents the child was acting up or being loud at a family function, and the parent usually doesn't ridicule them or quote unquote discipline their child in that manner, but
Yep.
because of how everyone else was looking at you like, oh, you crazy, you really gonna let your child do that, then they turned back around and disciplined the child for, and they knew like in their mind that they didn't want to do it, but they felt the pressure to do so, and that like is how you start breaking down your child's spirit, you
Right.
know? And it's like that's like, even though in their mind that's like, oh, you shouldn't do that, it's like gradually built that this is how it's supposed to be. Not necessarily that they were born saying like, oh, this is how it's supposed to be, because at one point or another they were rebellious the same way that we are rebellious.
Mhm.
I feel like what's different now between us and them is like our generation like really doesn't give a fuck about what other people think about them, you know? So I feel like there's going to be a lot of progress made in terms of breaking generational curses. I don't think it's going to like completely wipe out this aspect of our lives, but we're going to make some good progress,
Right.
you know?
It's always baffled me how slave masters used beating and whipping in form of making their subjects, comply. And then parents went and did the same to their kids. Like, I'm surprised that a lot of people haven't seen the correlation between the two.
Because they,
I
for
feel
some
like that's
reason,
all they know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a very animalistic way of trying to get someone to comply. Because when you get hit, you don't want to be in pain no more.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's really strange that they don't see the correlation. That's the last thing they'll go to if
Mhm.
you ever try to bring that up in conversation. He's like, "See, you never did that again, did you?" Yeah, but now I don't do a lot of things again because
Right.
I'm scared. Like,
I don't voice my opinion for a lot of things now. Like,
exactly. Like, you don't realize. Like, Aaliyah, how do you feel about that?
Um, honestly, I'm not opposed. I feel like it depends on how hard you hit them. I'm not saying you gotta abuse them to near death. That's not what I'm saying. But sometimes, like especially nowadays, these kids are like, you be looking at. I know I'll be looking at some kids. I'll be like, that kid need to get their like, cause some of these kids like they act up, and a lot of times verbal doesn't get them anywhere at this point. And you know, I feel like sometimes just a good slap goes a long way.
Let me clarify. I didn't mean to say that I was gonna hit my kids because I'm most likely gonna hit them, to be honest. But it's not gonna be to the point where it's abuse, you
mm,
know. I, and especially verbal abuse that happens between the parents and the kids, and I don't want that to happen between me and mine. Like,
right.
if you're beating your kid to show off, or beating your kid for a reason that's not really a reason, then yeah, that's abuse. If you're going to, especially like in terms of instruction, if you tell them to go right and they go left, you're going to give them a little slap and then tell them to go in the right direction. And then that's how they learn. Like, that's the process of how you learn at first. Eventually, you won't have to do that anymore. Like, even with me now, my mom most likely doesn't beat me anymore unless she really, yeah, like to the point of instruction where you could tell me, oh, give me an instruction, and I'll know that to follow the instruction.
So here's where that's where I have this is where we have the divide here, because what you're describing right now is still the same training that slave masters do, and the same training that people do in boot camp to make them just soldiers, to make them just follow orders, not to think for themselves. When For a great example, I'm glad both those doors are closed. Great example. I just bought my first car, right? And usually, whenever I'm sitting anywhere, I can have a full blown conversation. Hence the podcast. Like I could just talk about whatever I want to talk about and be free about it. But when I was sitting there with like my mom and my brother, I couldn't speak. I knew exactly what words I was supposed to say. I knew exactly what I was supposed to do, but I couldn't speak because I was so used to like whenever I spoke around them or if I did anything, I was always ridiculed or hit or something. I was always disciplined for it. So I was kind of ingrained to think that I should not speak when they're around. I should never speak. I should never act. I should never be myself when they're around. I should just close myself up. And that's that's still something I have to this day. Like I just said, that's not something people should have with family at all. My cousin, the only reason why she's close to me instead of her family is because they did the same thing with her. And she's freely expressive when we're together, but the second her dad walks in the room, she sits in a corner and stays on her phone and we don't talk for the rest of the time she's here. She becomes a recluse. There's this like you guys said, there's a specific extent that you're supposed to have with these things. But there is no place to say where you can and can't draw the line. So me in my house, I'd rather not risk that because if I can't draw the line, then I'm gonna distance myself from my kids and never be able to have the conversations that I want to have with them. You know, a lot of it comes with
Hmm.
like the guy who I sent in the Instagram chat before. He didn't hit his kid. Whenever his kid was acting out or anything, he talked to him on an intellectual level. He never belittled his child. If something was going on, if he was acting out, or if he was doing something that he shouldn't have been doing, he speaks to him. Yes, there's a lot of ways that you can speak to a child where it does not work. Where something like, little Timmy, don't do that. You're not supposed to do that. Stop that. Instead of sitting there and go like, why would you do that? You know, that's not a smart decision to do. You could affect X, Y, Z. You know, a lot of our parents also, whenever we were told not to do something, we were never given the reason why. We were just told not to. Like, if I picked up the guitar and started playing, don't play. Okay? Why? If you asked why, if you wanted to have an understanding of why you're not supposed to do something, you'd get immediately.
Right.
There was never explanation. So, to pull it all back, I feel like if we want to learn, we have to make mistakes. Like, shoot, I remember when I was a kid, my mom had a curling iron, and like I touched it, I was like, okay, so that's hot.
Right.
Never touching that again. I'm not gonna wait till my mom goes, and then probably do it again when she's not looking.
Exactly.
I'm still gonna be disobedient. Like,
because if anything, what you call it, getting hit, getting beat a lot, teaches your kid how to be secretive.
yeah,
You raise secretive, lying kids, so that way they can avoid that pain or avoid getting hit. You raise things that, you know, without even knowing, things that you despise kind of the most. And it all comes from just hitting. I mean, I understand, like you're saying, there are levels to it. But like CJ said, why risk it? Why take that chance? Like, we like to ridicule white people for talking to their kids. Like,
yeah,
if that was my kid, oh, no, you won't. Like, come on now. Like, he dropped something, he made a mess. Just tell him the reason why that's a bad thing.
Teach him to clean it up. Tell him
Teach
to
him-
fix his mistakes.
He's going to clean it up, and not only that, he's going to learn just by the amount of people around him looking at him making that mistake. He learned a lesson without you even having to do anything.
Right.
That was a mistake he made on his own, like CJ was saying. Stuff like that is out there. You don't necessarily need to put your hand on your kid.
Like, Aaron and Alita are actually a really good example, even though they were let loose way too. Actually, no. Let me go to Cheyenne. All right, Cheyenne's kids, not her kids, her sisters, when they would act up, their mom, because she was, you know, weak and brittle at the time, would sit there, let them do what they have to do, wait till everyone is gone, not embarrass them, but sit down and have a conversation with them afterward. Because we all know we hated having conversations with our parents when we got in trouble.
Oh, yeah.
Beat or unbeat. We hated having conversations with our parents. So, in order to not have that conversation, don't do this. Like, stop messing up. Stop doing these different things. Like, mess up. Go ahead. Do what you got to do. Come back. Like what she's doing with Shy right now. She was like, explore what you got to explore. Make as many mistakes as you got to mistake. And when you come back, and you need help learning, that's what I'm here for. I'm here to help you learn and grow into what you want to become, not to stunt you. You make your mistakes because one day you'll be an adult and I won't be alive. And when you make a mistake and you don't know what to do, I don't want to be to blame for that. I want you to make your mistakes now while you're young, so when you're up there, older, and you're still making mistakes or doing whatever you have to do, you could bounce back up and keep going.
Right.
Instead of, I made a mistake, I don't know what to do, I'm going to just stay away from this now, or I'm not going to try to come up from this mistake. I'm going to do something different now. I'm just going to, like, ignore everything that I've ever done in life now and just try something else because this is too much now. It breaks, going back to, like, the willpower idea, it destroys a kid's willpower entirely. And they have to rediscover the willpower after. Their willpower, their voice, their, like, cause of action, it's all destroyed and you become a soldier. Like, I've had the conversation with my mom multiple times where I was like, I have a clear path on where I'm supposed to go. But there's been days where I'm stuck. And instead of trying to find a solution, I go to her and I go like, what's next? Like, what do I do?
Right.
Like, you've been there every time I made a mistake so far and either told me, go figure it out, didn't help, or like, I've been hit for things. But just like, what do I do? And it's been like this heartbreaking moment where it's like, how do you tell your kid, like, you're on your own now? You got to figure it out. I can't tell you what to do anymore. Why would you wait till they're already on their own or in college or whatever to tell them, now you're on your own, you got to figure things out, when you could skip the steps and do that early on? There's so much different things in development that you could have if you just let them grow and explore themselves beforehand, like especially when they're younger.
Right.
Like, yeah, we talk a lot of shit about white people and how they raise their kids, but they are rich. Like,
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Look at the different income.
Like, yeah. I mean, of course, that is just like there's like a whole bunch of other things that play into that, but
right,
but there's a truth here. Like, I guess it comes from too, like, as a parent, there's a fear that you kind of want them, like, to a certain extent, you want your kid to be a certain way.
right.
Like like I forgot, I was talking to my brother about this. It's like, oh, like, I didn't raise you to be this way. Like if you make a mistake that's something that's not in line with their values, it's like,
I didn't raise you to be this way.
I didn't raise you to do this. I didn't raise you to do that.
Right.
But it kind of there's a certain like threshold they want you to reach before you start learning. Like it's like the whole thing of our values, like what we value, right? Like, family, friendship, peace, and all that stuff. We value that. So you want them to be in line with that for a bit, and then deviate from that whenever you feel like it's necessary for them to go that path.
Right.
So I guess for them, it's just like fear that you deviate from their values, their core values. While of course you may not value that at a young age, but you don't know what you value at a young age. And so they try to instill that in you, and then you figure out what you value. So I understand where they're coming from, but I definitely do agree. Like, you should be able to go back.
Yeah.
And to talk to them, like, have them make the mistakes, have them do all that stuff, because that stuff is important.
I think that's a huge reason why my dad was such a powerful, like, person in my life. That's why I always whenever anything happened in my life, I ran to him immediately, because like, he made himself that available, even though like he worked so much. But when I messed up, it didn't matter if he yelled or not. He would sit me down and we would talk about what happened, and until I understood what I did and how I messed up. And then we move on from there.
Right.
And he would always open the floor before and after saying, I want you to know that I love you. And like, I respect where you are in life. And he would always start off with something uplifting before we break down the issue.
Right.
And then we go back to rebuilding. That's like whenever someone messes up, that's a great idea to just do in general. It doesn't even have to be your kid. Just in general. When someone messes up, building them up, breaking down the situation so they have the difference of understanding they want to pick me up. I'm not my situation. Right. That's the best way to put it. I'm not my situation, and they're attacking the situation, not me. And when they build me back up, their like focus is helping me understand what I did, instead of just, oh, you're attacking me, don't do that, and they close themselves off to the discussion entirely.
Yeah.
Like that, it was just a great way for me to learn as a whole growing up, instead of just, being hit. Because from the amount of times I get hit for the same thing over and over again, opposed to being told and having a conversation, whenever we had a conversation about something, I never did it again.
Right.
So, like, it was just, I mean, yeah, I could also say, no, I was never really afraid of my dad. Like, he's an Aki dude, but I was never really afraid of him. Yeah. My brother, well, he's Christ, right?
And I would like to be like that in the future, but I didn't really learn how to do that, So, like, I feel like if I was in a stressful situation, I would automatically revert to discipline.
Well, yeah, that's the trained mentality we were talking about before, though.
That's why when raising a kid, it's a partnership. You know what I mean? It's not like only you coming up with that idea. Whoever the person you're with will correct your wrongs,
right,
and vice versa. So if you feel that, exactly, like, so if you feel like you're gonna revert to that, she can easily say that's not the best way to go about that. You both got to kind of have that dialogue. You got to establish that connection on the best possible way to treat this other life that's entered your life. So it's not always gonna be you, like only you coming up with the decision. And you'll always also have your partner's voice in the back of your head, kind of telling you like, That's not how you handle stuff.
Right. Also, we have to remember, none of us have kids right now.
That too.
We still have time to learn.
Exactly. I'm glad you said that because I was going to go that path too. Like, yeah, I mean, we're only like in our 20s. I mean,
well, like, we're in our 20s.
We can't even say that. We can't even say that because there are people having kids in their 20s. But like,
that's fair.
Yeah, but like
some people are having kids at their 16s.
Yeah,
there's
16.
some young kids.
There's a lot of young parents, but you know, we survived the 2019 kid draft, so like, we made it. We made it. But like, jokes aside, like, we're still learning. Obviously, if we're having these conversations, we're willing to learn.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's nothing. We're in a good shape. I personally say.
Beautiful shape.
Yeah, we're pretty solid shape.
Yeah. Also, oh no! I actually forgot something. Well, guess
Alright, y'all.
that's gone.
I gotta log off personally because I gotta shower and get ready to leave. I'm going to Indiana for the
Ooh.
We can end.
Yeah, we could call it.
A case study. So
Ooh.
hopefully I win. If I
You mean you
don't,
will win?
I'm just gonna jump off the bridge.
Don't put that energy out there. Not put that energy out there. Good vibes only.
Only good vibes.
Good vibes only.
Exactly.
But yeah, I gotta get ready for this 1 a.m. flight. So
Got you.
All
I'll
right.
talk to y'all.
So let's all sign off then.
Yeah, let's call it.
We all off this.
All right. Since I usually start it, let's start with the person that usually ends it. Aaliyah. Oh, Denzel left.
Denzel just straight up left.
He straight up left. Well, I guess we'll do it the slower way. All right, guys, we're gonna call it a night.
Yeah.
I'll just beat Denzel.
All right, bye. So, as always, you know, spread that peace, spread that love, spread that joy, and continue to learn.
Do something nice for somebody today, tomorrow, for the rest of the year. Just one act of kindness.
Mm-hmm.
Feels good.
And we're your hosts. We're the full circle, the full package. I'm your guy, Roxas Wright, CJ Wright.
And I'm your guy. Wait, what was my name again? Jack Jr., Neo Panther, Fuzzy Bear Slips, and...
I'm Aaliyah, and Denzel was here like a couple minutes ago, but he says bye too. Denzel Washington, Daddy Quick, Denzel Quick.
Yeah. Denzel Quick! And we'll see you guys the next time.
The next time.
Have a good night, morning, afternoon, all of those.